Hey, coming up at 10:30 is Ceasefire with Dale Adams and Ron Cisneros. And then at 11:15, God and Our Dogs with Meg Greer. But right now, a very special conversation with Mr. Tim Christ. He's the author of a new book you're going to want to get as we celebrate and remember the 2024 Boerne Little League team. This is Boerne Radio.
For the Boerne Little League World Series lineup, we've got Julian Hurst, pitcher and first baseman. We've got Ben Burkhart, the outfield. We've got Doc Modford, pitcher, catcher, and center fielder. We've got Cole Newsom at first base. We've got Caden Guffey, pitcher, catcher, and third baseman. We've got Gage Stubing in the outfield. We've got Gray Collins, who's a pitcher and outfield. We've got Jet Matthews, who's a shortstop. We've got Cooper Hastings, who's a pitcher and third baseman. We've got Aiden Munoz, who's a second baseman. We've got Dylan Burke, who's a third baseman in the outfield. And we've got Caleb Christ, who's pitcher in the outfield. That is your 12-man Boerne roster.
And welcome to a very special edition of Boost Boerne Business here on Boerne Radio, 103.9 FM. Baron Wiley broadcasting from the Richter Studios here in downtown Boerne. And guess what, ladies? We've been waiting for this moment, and I'll tell you what it is right now. I'm holding it in my hand. Brand new book, and it's called How Boerne Made History and Played on Their Field of Dreams. I'm here with the author, Mr. Tim Christ. Congratulations, Tim Christ, on everything.
Thank you, Baron.
How are you?
Fantastic.
You're on the world tour right now, I bet.
Working on it, yes, sir.
The book, again, is based on our championship team that came out of Boerne that put us on the map. And let me just tell you up front right now, I got calls from my friends and family all over the country who were like, is this the same Boerne? You know,
that's
here at the
awesome.
World Series, you know?
Yeah.
And you get to be the dad.
I get to be their dad.
All right, so let's just, I don't even know where you want to start, but congratulations. When did you start writing this book and telling the story?
So, it was interesting over the holidays of this past year, we'd watch my son Caleb, he'll watch the YouTube videos all the time.
Yeah.
And so what we noticed was some of the YouTube videos were starting to not still be there anymore. And so some of the secondhand guys that, record them and then do the short snippets were still showing. But I was like, I started sort of getting worried. I'm like, oh my gosh, some of that content is disappearing, and we didn't record all of it, right?
Oh.
So I'm like, you know what? Before my memory fades and leaves me and whatnot, let me just put all this down on paper. Obviously, we had some of the information from our Game Changer app and whatnot, and so I took the holidays, I wrote the book, and I said I want to create this permanent record and memento for for obviously our community and also our family, because ultimately we want to share this whole story with Caleb's kids and grandkids and whatnot, because it was such a fun spring and summer. And so, I wrote the book over the holidays, and then thankfully I've had several folks here in Boerne that have been part of my advanced reader group. So they provided a ton of input and suggestions and recommendations, and actually provided some content too that I'd forgotten about here and there. So they always say it truly does take a village. So we put this whole thing together, and we published it April 1st. So here we are.
Congratulations again.
Thank you.
This is going to be a treasured piece of Boerne history forever.
We hope so. Yep.
Yeah. Now, how do we get all the kids to sign every book? Because
That'll be a challenge.
Those little kid signatures aren't going to be the same when they get older,
No, that's true. We'll see if we can get them together. Maybe some of these signings we're going to do here over the course of the next few months. But all the kids are obviously running in a million different directions with their sports and academic activities and everything else. And so we still see them obviously all at different places, but it's one-offs here and there. We're not getting together much as a team anymore.
All right, so let's kind of play through a little bit of that history. And when the season started, talk about maybe when you signed up, did you have any idea where this was going to go? Did you feel like there was promise in this team?
So, that's a really good question. So let me kind of set the stage of how this whole thing came together, right?
Yeah.
So Justin Newsom, our general manager, he's a longtime Boerne resident. He actually grew up in Comfort. So he played against Boerne Little League for years, and Comfort would always get the snot kicked out of him.
Right.
And so when he moved to Boerne and then obviously got older and started having kids, he started to understand because he saw the level of training and development and everything else in practice that goes on here with the kids. And so he grew up with his sons have grown up with a whole group of kids that have been playing a lot of different athletics activities, since they were 3 or 4 or 5 years old. Mm-hmm. And so he joked about it for several years, like, hey, I want to put this little league team together. Let's try to make a run at the World Series. But then 2023, when Chris Carey moved to town and became the president of Boerne Little League, Chris is from Abilene. And so Abilene had the Wiley Little League go to the World Series back in 2021. And so Chris, having the knowledge of how that journey went and how it transpired and how they built it, plus, Justin's dream of wanting to put this thing together, really, I kind of put in the book, I said it was a match made in heaven, right?
Yeah.
Then they got really serious. They said, hey, let's actually, put this together. And so Cole, which is Justin's son, and then most of his classmates, they were going to be obviously 12, and it was going to be their 12-year-old summer for the spring of 2024. So it's basically a situation where it's either this year or never. And so Justin actually called me in the fall and said, "Hey, Tim, we're putting this team together. We want these kids to come play Boerne Little League all spring, and we want to try to make it around the World Series. And we want Caleb to come play." And so Caleb's a year younger than the rest of these kids, but they knew who we were because we all played with the Fair Oaks Falcons, which is a local select team, which doesn't exist anymore. But they knew of us from some of that. And so we talked about it, and so I talked about it with my wife, and she's like, "Okay, yeah, we'll be happy to participate with this." And we said, "Sure." So we all signed up for Boerne Little League in the spring. And we knew we had 12 pretty good baseball players, and so we played all the normal season. Then we had all-star tryout days. So, I mean, obviously there's some other really good kids in Boerne too. So all the kids had to try out. They all voted on who they thought should be the team, and then the coaches got to do some last-minute selections, and then the coaches got voted on, and so the whole thing got put together. So we formed our group of 12, and we had our families, and we knew we had a group of really good baseball players, but it's just like anything else, right? Like anything can happen in baseball.
Right. And
so we took them to district. Let's see how this goes. And, we had 3 no-hitter games, and we just steamrolled everybody. And we're like, oh, wow, this is kind of cool.
Getting real.
Yeah. And then, historically, and, the folks that are obviously longtime Boerne residents will know, and San Antonio folks, McAllister Park has been the powerhouse in the area for a long, long time. They've gone to Williamsport 3 or 4 times. They've been state champions 8 or 9 times. So its section is when we were going to meet McAllister Park. And so we were really worried about, how the boys are going to do against that powerhouse team. We ended up doing really, really well in section, and so then it got real. We're like, hey, this has a team, this is a team that's got a chance to kind of go all the way. So then we go to Abilene, which was great for Chris because that's like going back home for him. And so we get to go to Abilene, and we played, 3 games there. We played West Brownsville, Midland, and University Little League, which they've got a really fantastic story too. But we beat them pretty handily as well, and so that took us to Waco, which was a regional tournament. And so the University Little League, just a quick aside, so they, in 2002, Fort Worth went to the Little League World Series, and they played Kentucky. And back then, the pitch count rules were different and whatnot. Well, that game went 11 innings.
Oh.
And this is back when the kids' games used to go 9. So it went 2 extra innings, but the 2 pitchers in that game had to get pulled after the 9th inning because they couldn't pitch more than 9 innings. Well, one of those pitchers threw 124 pitches in that game, and the other threw 118. And like today, we wouldn't even think about putting our kids through some sort of tournament like that. But every kid in Fort Worth has heard that story for 23 years that, hey, our team went to the Little League World Series in 2002, and we want to develop a team to go back there, right? So the university team was gunning for us the whole time when we went to state, but we were able to beat them, and then we continued on. And so we got to go to Waco and spend a week there, which was a whole lot of fun. The competition got a lot tighter. So we played Arkansas, we played Louisiana, and they played us really, really tough. And so some timely hitting and good defense and good pitching. We won Waco, and so that was a Tuesday night when we beat Louisiana for the second time.
Yes.
They sit us down. They said, all right, guys, congratulations on your win in Waco. Guess what? Friday morning, your boys are on an airplane to Williamsport. And we're like, holy cow, here we go.
Wow. Let me ask you, since you said you're on an airplane, you had to pay for your tickets, right?
No. So that's a really cool thing about Little League, right? Is so everything is free. So like if you're a participant or if you're a bystander and you want to go watching the games, you don't have to pay any money to go in to watch these games. They're all free.
Awesome.
In Waco, I'd say that, and I talked about it in the book, the Little League really takes over the tournament. So the kids stay in it. They have a corporate hotel that they put all the teams in. So it's like a madhouse, right? The La Quinta there in downtown Waco has all the teams and coaches staying there. We stayed in the Aloft Hotel, which is right across the parking lot, and we could walk back and forth. But the Little League really took over. Like I said, at Waco, they gave the coaches gift cards to pay for the meals for all the kids and whatnot. And then they paid to fly the kids to Williamsport, put them in the quads that they have there, and they pay for the food and everything else. Now the parents have to supply, pay their own expenses up there. But, this obviously we want to say thank you to the Boerne community.
Sure.
Through the generous donations of everybody here in town, everybody that listens to your show, we raised enough money where it basically didn't cost the families hardly anything to fund this dream. So, because we were on the hook for a week in Abilene, a week in Waco is going to be 3.5 weeks in Williamsport, airfare, rental car, hotels, the whole 9 yards, food for everybody, activities for the other kids if you've got other kids too, right? So at the end of it, I say, overall, it's a couple $100,000 to make this whole thing happen.
Right.
But like I said, again, thanks to the community and the generosity of everybody around the area, we were able to make this happen. So we're very, very blessed.
Well, we still have our T-shirts. We still have our great
we
memories.
have ours as well.
I believe you. We got to celebrate and watch the World Series there at the Tusculum there. In fact, Coach Stan Leach was sitting right next to us, and just a real special memory for this whole town. And so, it's just overwhelmingly wonderful. What a gift that year was. But we get to live it as long as we want with how Boerne made history and played on their Field of Dreams. It's the story of their historic trip to the Little League World Series by Tim Christ. And how do we get this book today?
So it's available on Amazon, but also, the local bookstore here in town is going to carry it.
The Boerne Bookshop with Dale.
Dale's going to carry it. And then we've got, we're going to do some book signings. D-Bat's going to carry it as well. So there's going to be a number of places around town where you can pick up your own copy.
Well, we encourage you to pick it up here in town.
Absolutely.
Amazon's convenient, but come on, we're in downtown Boerne. Let's do it. Yeah. Thank you, D1, and thank you, the Boerne Bookshop, and just be looking around, and maybe you'll be there to sign some books when they do come out. I want to get all the kids on here. How are the kids doing today? That has to be a mental, just overload. Their whole experience. It
was really interesting. So obviously, we only ended up playing 5 games over 3 weeks in Williamsport. So there is quite a bit of downtime. What's interesting is, the first 4 or 5 days, the kids are super busy. They're getting their new uniforms from Adidas, and they're getting all their equipment from Easton. They're doing these ESPN interviews.
Right.
So they all get to feel like big leaders for the first, several days. Well, after we played one of the games, like I said, we had a couple days off, and so we took Caleb, and they encourage you to check him out, and so you have to badge him out, badge him back in. They've got a bunch of security there at Williamsport. But so we took him, and we drove up to Niagara Falls, and it's about a 3.5 hour drive from Williamsport. The poor kid, because like you said, it's constant overload of attention and people asking him for signatures all the time, and just the the sort of the mental stress. I equate it to being in college for the first time, like in a dorm when you're 18 years old, right? Like you come home that first semester, and what do? You sleep on the couch for the first 3 weeks when you come home, because it's just, like you said, it's been a mental overload. So we drive to Niagara Falls. He sleeps the whole way up and the whole way back. And that's normally not the way Caleb is. Right. So we knew he was just mentally, exhausted. And so it was great to be able to get him a little bit of rest and relaxation. But to answer your question, the kids came back home, and we were already 2.5 weeks late getting into school. So one of the really cool things.
That's right. I forgot that. So how are you managing school?
Oh, we weren't.
Yeah.
We're playing baseball. We weren't worried about school. It was 11 o'clock at night on a Tuesday evening. We're playing baseball, and it's there was school today, but nobody cares. We came back home, and the kids are, like I said, we get back on that. So they fly home on Monday. We take them all back to school on Tuesday, and the schools, and again, just the community in general just really turned out for the kids and the group. But the entire schools are lined up. The hallways are lined up, and so there's the Champion and Boerne High School drum lines. The cheerleaders are out there. The Boerne baseball teams are parading the kids into their middle schools for their first day back on that Tuesday. And so it's just a huge, again, celebration and recognition for what the kids had accomplished. They're 2 weeks late. This is obviously the fall of 2024, so now they're 2 weeks late for football because a lot of them are multi-sport athletes.
Right.
And there's strict UIL rules around how quickly you can fully dress out in pads and whatnot. So we had to get through all that for all the kids, fairly quickly. And so everybody got, filtered back into their normal stuff. Although we had a half dozen different quote unquote, publicity appearances that we had to do. So we got honored at a Spurs game that fall.
Fun.
The Texas State Senate asked us to come up. And so we were at the Capitol, and over the winter, there's now Texas State Resolution 561. That's a forever commemoration of our efforts, of our trip. And so that's a really cool thing for the kids that they got to experience. So we've all got a flag that flew over the Texas Capitol that was given to us. And then we had to appear at, or didn't we have to? We chose to appear at a few other things. And then, like I said, then we kind of try to get the boys back into sort of their normal routines and, playing football and running cross country and then playing basketball and whatnot.
But then first, when you got back home, there was a parade.
There was a parade. So the kids are super spoiled now. We joke in the book because we took them to the Fair Oaks HEB at 2 a.m. that Friday morning to fly to Williamsport. So I joke in the book that you hope you don't like to sleep very much, because in baseball you never get to sleep. So 2 in the morning we're at Fair Oaks HEB, and the Fair Oaks police are there, and so they had a police escort into the airport, and then of course all the news crews were there to interview them as soon as they got to the airport. But so from here to to the airport with a police escort, you're there in 13 minutes. And so on the way back home for the parade, they had the same thing. And so now, we joke with the kids. It's it's fine as long as you're in the front of the police car, not in the back of the police car.
That's
it's totally okay for having police.
What a great experience, though.
But they run back out here that Monday afternoon, flying home from Newark. And like I said, there was, they had the big parade there up Main Street, and then everybody got together there in Main Plaza. And so the, bunch of the elected officials had some very nice things to say. And so the thousands of people turn out for more signatures and pictures, and so the kids are just autographing things left and right, taking pictures, and they're just like you said, they're celebrities. It's amazing for me to see now, because obviously we play baseball all over the state. We can't go anywhere in Texas without them knowing who he is.
Oh, wow.
And so he still gets asked, and several of the other boys too, they still get asked to this day for signatures and pictures and, hey, how was that trip? Or, hey, we saw you guys on TV and, hey, we were rooting for you. And so it's been there's a whole seismic wave that exists, even post coming home from Williamsport that still continues on to this day. So, he's very gracious about it. I mean, Caleb had a wonderful experience. He's got nothing but great memories of the whole thing. And he is more than happy to sign autographs or take pictures and talk about his experience.
Have you had to have the father-son stay grounded talk, though, too? I mean, that's a challenge. It has to be because their egos are so big at that young age.
I think that's a really great point, and having spent a lot of time with the dads, too. I think we've got a group of kids that are really, really well grounded,
and that's what's so great.
I think it's a testament to the parenting that everybody's done over the course of several years. So, especially in baseball, because in baseball you lose 70% of the time.
Right. If you're batting 300, you're good.
That's right. It's a rarity when you win, and so we're all used to losing a bunch of games and working really, really hard to win a few games here and there, and so. We've really never dealt with like the big ego thing. Like all the kids are humble, they're hungry, they're emotionally invested in the success of each other. Like we didn't, some teams have these, different like fights that exist and nitpicking that goes on. Yeah. We didn't have much of that because like the boys pulled for each other. They're like, hey, I strike out, you pick me up, or they bounce right back if they don't, if they make an error and they bounce back and they get a hit, their next at batter. And so I think they've been conditioned well enough to react the right way.
Yeah.
And so they stay very even keel. They don't get too high. They don't get too low, which is in sports for parents if you want to develop long-term athletes, that's what they've got to be. Is they've got to just be pretty even keel because there's going to be a lot of highs and lows. But if you don't let those really affect how you view it, then you can have a longevity in the game.
All right, now take me back to the final game, the final out, the last out. When you talk about a lot of highs, it's been high all the way. And probably that second to last game when the game was over and Boerne did not win.
Yeah, so stick the knife right in the heart,
well,
right?
I mean, you know what you can say? Well, go read the book. How Boerne made history and played on their field of dreams.
It's okay. So we win 17 games in a row.
Right.
We get to the U.S. championship game. We had beat Florida earlier that week on Tuesday, or on Sunday rather. We beat Mountain on Tuesday, and so beating Mountain on Tuesday got us to the U.S. championship game. When we beat Florida on Sunday, we sent them to the losers bracket. So they had to play a couple of extra games to get back into the final game. So we meet for the second time on that Saturday afternoon, which obviously is all being broadcast on ABC and whatnot. And that game had 4.4 million viewers.
Wow!
It was the most watched Little League game since 2015.
Wow!
But I mean, it's two titans going at it. It's this upstart from Boerne, Texas, but Texas, which is always a powerhouse in every sport, right?
And how do you even say Boerne? It was fun to hear the announcers mispronounce Boerne.
That's right. Nobody knew how to say Boerne, so we finally were able to educate them on that. But Florida has been to the Little League World Series, 20 plus times too, but they've never won the championship. So it, like I said, it was like being at the Coliseum and watching these two titans slug it out. And so we're winning that whole game. And then we've got to pull Julian because his shoulder starts to hurt. And then we put in Doc, and then somebody, one of the kids on Florida, hits a baseball right back at Doc, hits him in the leg, injures him. He falls down. He's got to come out of the game. They put Cole into pitch. He pitches a few batters to get us out of that inning. And then so we're still, leading going up into the last inning, and then to the bottom of the fifth, and then they score some runs. So now we're down, and they send Caleb into pitch. So Caleb's pitching that final. And
Caleb is your son.
Caleb's my son, yeah. And so we're scared to death. He comes in, he walks the first kid, which was J.J. Feliciano, which was their star pitcher. Then he gets a kid to pop out, which is great, and then walks another kid. And then ultimately through some, errors on our side and whatnot, they end up beating us in that game 10-7. So that was obviously, the kids are just heartbroken. We left it all on the field. What's amazing about that game is nobody had scored that many runs against us the entire season. And you think about like we were if we want to say that we were the two best teams there at Williamsport for that week or for those 3 weeks, how does one team score that many runs against the other best team that's there? It just, I always say, we all know anything can happen in baseball, and on that day, it was Southeast Day to emerge victorious. And so, like I said, we just go back to the emotional question you asked earlier. We just got to keep ourselves on an even keel, right?
Yeah.
Of course, the kids were devastated. There was a bunch of, hugs and tears and whatnot that evening. That game didn't end until, 9-ish o'clock. And so we get another hour and a half or so with the kids before they go to bed. But everybody's emotionally exhausted. It's been obviously a long summer.
Right.
They go to sleep late that Sunday night, which means we have to wake up the next morning and play first thing in the morning against Venezuela for the consolation game.
Yeah.
Can't say that we were in prime shape for that game, unfortunately, and so we ultimately fall that game to 4-3.
It's okay.
But, they're 12-year-old kids, right? They're
Right.
They're not going to act like MLB players all of the time,
Right.
and so we totally give everybody a lot of grace. But it was a heck of a ride.
No joke.
It was like you said, experience of a lifetime. The boys remember all of the wonderful parts about it. They enjoy all the wonderful parts about it. I mean, there's so many cool memories of them signing autographs and taking pictures and pushing kids around in wheelchairs for the Challenger game and just all of the service related stuff that goes on with Little League too, because really at the end of the day, I mean, Little League really truly is this community based sport. And so that was a cool thing too. Like you mentioned, being a Tuscaloosa, brewery, a handful of the places here in Boerne all had watch parties.
Right.
And so we're getting pictures from text messages from our friends and people that are here back home. Oh my gosh, look at these 150 people that are at this place, or look at all these people that are here. Right. And so the amount of support we had from everybody was absolutely amazing. And we are so appreciative and thankful for everybody turning out that way. And it was, it was a whole lot of fun and very, very proud and humbled that the kids represented themselves so well and were such great ambassadors for the city and city of Boerne and obviously the county of Kendall.
How Boerne made history and played on their field of dreams is by Tim Chris, the proud father of Caleb. First, father, husband, family, Boerne. And the book is out now.
The book is out.
All right. So you can maybe find it again, easy, Amazon, but we want you to support local. Think Boerne Bookshop. And again, I'll tell you what I'll do. If you're listening to this on the radio, we'll put the podcast up and just check the description of the podcast, and I'll put a list of where you can find the book as well. Okay.
That'd be perfect.
All right. Well, send me that link and keep me posted on where it might be. And we're going to keep our listeners going because we want to sell a lot of books. How many are in the first pressing?
150.
150. Did you number each one by chance?
No.
You should.
Oh.
Collection. I got number 8.
Okay, maybe we'll do that.
All right, there you go. And then the second pressing will come out after that.
Yeah,
just in time for Christmas.
We'll keep ordering as long as people tell us they want more copies. So.
Well, again, congratulations. Anything else?
I just, like I said, very thankful for the community, the way that they supported the team. Very thankful for you for the opportunity to come on and talk about it. Spread the word about the book. We really, like you said, we want it to be a keepsake that people treasure for. We want to, we're going to pull this off the bookshelf when Caleb's got kids that are, 6 and 10 and 12 years old. I mean, we talk about the university team, but there's a lot of, the other thing we wrote about in the book was we put a lot of the statistics for the kids in the book because we want people to know how well you can develop your kids by different ages. And because I think there's a lack of really good information out there in the market about what kids can really achieve. And so, and I've seen it just because of all the different sports Caleb's been involved in. We play golf with some kids that are phenomenal golfers at 11 years old. Like they've won global tournaments at 11 years old that live here, not too far away from us. With a lot of intentionality and focus and development, you can have world-class athletes at 12 and 13 years old if you put that sort of focus and intentionality into them. And so it's amazing to see what kids at 12 years old can go achieve. And so, we batted fourth, I think 413 for the entire series. And so you look at that compared to what the MLB does. Our kids were rock stars, absolute rock stars. Sitting here in Boerne, Texas while we were watching it. And then when that final game ended, yes, you said hugs and tears and all that kind of stuff. But there was also that good brotherhood of just the baseball players. You saw it on both teams embracing each other. Maybe when one team lost, the other one went and supported the other. I think that just comes from, thanks to you and our wonderful Boerne ISD, people are moving to this town because they saw Boerne Little League and the character and the class of our kids. And they want to come here and play baseball. Yeah, no, that's a really good point. And Little League definitely, sportsmanship is at its core one of the primary tenets. Winning is definitely secondary. And so really the culture of, and what we've obviously trained our kids to do too, but the culture of Little League is sportsmanship and teamwork. We saw untold number of good sportsmanship moments the entire spring and summer. The boys, it was so funny, and I wrote about a few of them in the book. One of the boys on the other team would hit a double, and so when he gets on second base, our shortstop Aiden or our shortstop Jed or our second baseman Aiden would high five the kid. And so just hey, great hit, great fielding, whatever, right? They would mutually congratulate each other. And the thing is too, like all these boys are living in these quads that are super close to each other. So our boys for 3 weeks played with the Mid-Atlantic team, they played with the Japanese team, they played with the Venezuela team, they played with the Florida team. They're playing wiffle ball every single day. There was a sport court out there where the kids are shooting hoops. There was an inside game room where they had MLB The Show on a couple of TVs. They had pinball games and ping pong tables. So the boys were in very, very close proximity. And like you said, at the end of the day, they're all 12-year-olds, and so they're just going to have fun just like crazy, right? And it doesn't matter; they just want to play. And so all these kids got to just play and be kids for 3 weeks with 240 of now their closest friends, and just enjoy it like crazy. And so every single time they walked on the field, they were just happy to be there, and they just knew that they wanted to go compete their butts off. But at the end of the day, like I said, they've been well conditioned, and we've all lost enough where we can absolutely tell the other team, great game.
Yeah.
And we know when we played really well and they still win, like they earned it, right? It wasn't that we just gave it to them. And so we, absolutely pat them on the back and say, really, really well done. And so we appreciate great effort, and we appreciate solid competition. And so, yeah, it was the kids, definitely did a really good job of congratulating everybody, just, like I said, being super respectful and supportive the whole time. So we like to believe that they definitely embody the Little League values and the values that we obviously relish here in the city of Boerne.
So you wrote the book, Tim Christ, and so you get to tell me what was your proudest moment of the whole season, because it has to be about your son.
Well, so was really proud. So obviously, Caleb rode the bench quite a bit on defense because all the boys were 12 years old and bigger, stronger. But he played a little bit of the outfield, and then in the Nevada game he comes into pitch because we had just walked in a run. And so now we're on cloud nine, but we're also on the edge of our seats, like scared to death, right? Because obviously we need to win this game to keep advancing. But he comes into pitch, bases loaded, 1 out. The score is now 2-1 because we just walked in that run. So he strikes out his first kid for out number 2. So he gets his first Little League World Series strikeout. Then the kid Gunner from Nevada hits a ground ball, gets on first, scores 1 run. And then the next kid, Caleb, hits a line drive out to Gage, who's in right field for out number 3. So he threw 79% strike percentage when he came into pitch. So he absolutely dominated the mound, got us out of the jam, got us to retire the side, and got us back in the dugout, and we were able to go back and hit again. So that was absolutely phenomenal to get to watch him.
That's my kid.
That's right.
You doing that?
Julie, come over here. We'll talk.
That's right. Come on. Well, we're all proud. We know that you as the father, all the fathers are proud. I do have to ask, how do the moms hold up?
There was, it was very tense for the parents. I joke in the book about, the fact that we all gnawed our fingernails off several times over the course of those 3 months. The moms, there was some screeching going on. There was a lot of emotion, good and bad. But like I said, early on when we were winning, it was fairly good. But there was a lot of tense moments, and we talk a lot about we didn't take a breath for 2 hours for most of those games. But the moms were fantastic as well. And Cole rounded the bases one time when he hit his grand slam, and he made the little heart symbol for his mom, and so she had a sign up that said, "We love coleslaw." So it's again it's all super close, tight knit families, and everybody was super supportive and loved on each other, and so it was an absolute joy and pleasure to get to travel with those 12 families for the entire 3 months. Everybody was so fantastic and courteous to everybody else. But then we're sitting there in Williamsport, and Julie Foudy, the ESPN broadcaster, is running up and down the stands, interviewing the different parents as different plays get made. So, Jet would, make a play at shortstop. He'd run over and talk to the Matthews. And then, Julian would be pitching. He'd run over and talk to the Hurst.
Sweet.
And then, Cooper would do something there at third base. He'd run over and talk to the Hastings, or she'd run over and talk to the Hastings. So there was a lot of different distractions going on the entire time there at Williamsport. But, again, you just got to live in the moment, soak it all in, appreciate it, and then I made the comment in the book. It's amazing because on one level it felt like we were there for a year, and another level it felt like we were there for like 10 minutes. I mean, it's just amazing. But it's baseball heaven, and it's a very, very magical place. And so we're very, very blessed to have gotten to experience that, and we hope to use our experience and also just what we've done with our kids and how to get them there to inspire obviously future Little Leagues to take a similar path. Right, once your kids get to 6, 7, 8 years old, start kind of building a multi-year plan of let's try to make this happen, because this is absolutely an experience that everybody would love to go through, but it takes quite a bit of planning and effort for it to actually be accomplished. Well,
thank you for taking the time to record your memories, because we'll have them forever too. If you think your memories are slipping, guess what? We've already moved on, but you get to remind us every day when we pick up this book. Again, it's called How Boerne Made History and Played on Their Field of Dreams. Tim Christ, thank you so much. Congratulations. Thank you for being a good citizen, a good father, and just a good man here in Boerne, Texas.
Well, thank you, Baron, and thanks to the station for having me on and having the opportunity to talk about it.
And thank you for listening to Boerne Radio, 103.9 FM.